Joining us right now is Mr. Jeremy Stubbs, expert commentator on French politics, coming right from Paris. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Good to be with you.
So a lot of people are calling Macron's move to call a snap election a political gamble. And commentators are saying that this might come as a move to secure some elections before the right-wing parties are able to consolidate their voters. Do you see that gamble paying off as of the moment?
No, and in fact, I think a gamble is only a gamble when there's something you could conceivably win. And Monsieur Macron can only really lose in what is about to happen because, in a sense, the most likely outcome at the moment is that there is a majority for the National Rally, the Rassemblement National of Marine Le Pen, and the main opposition will be the so-called Popular Front of the left. And Macron's centrist party, Renaissance, will be more or less out of the picture. So he seems to be gearing up for a couple of years at least of impotence on the presidential part. And his worst enemies, the extremes of the right and the left, that he supposedly was going to push out of the picture, have actually come center stage.
Right, and now if you could help us unpack the situation further, what are the main reasons now behind the turmoil with the Les Républicains and the broader right-wing political spectrum in France?
Well, the aim of both the right and the left is to create coalitions between their parties in order to stand up to each other. Now, the left have managed to create a coalition of most of their parties, the Popular Front. The right are having great trouble. This is because on the right, there has traditionally been a kind of rejection of the more radical right of the National Rally, of Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National, and the Republicans, who represent the sort of traditional conservative, more moderate right, are divided over whether they should make alliances with the National Rally in different constituencies or not. And their president says they should make alliances. Other influential members of the party say no, and they are actually at loggerheads, indeed locking each other out of the party premises in order to try and maintain the high ground, as it were. So the Republicans are in a sort of meltdown situation at the moment. And a similar division has broken out in the heart of Éric Zemmour's Reconquest party, where there are divisions again as to whether there should be alliances with Marine Le Pen's party. So the right is fracturing, although the National Rally still has, in all the polls, the lead over all other parties.
Right, like you mentioned, the right-wing part of France is seeing some fragmentation there with trouble with cohesiveness. So don't you think that is why Macron has called for this election and maybe banking on the fact that the right cannot consolidate to hopefully win some political points there?
Well, that again, he couldn't win there because the main party still, the single party, is the National Rally of Marine Le Pen. That party would still dominate, according to current polls, any National Assembly that was elected. And fragmenting the little bits, if you like, the little bits of the right that are fragmented, which is in a sense a tragedy for those parties. But the National Rally is still carrying everything before it. And that really means that in the middle, Monsieur Macron's own party, Renaissance, will be shrunk down really to insignificance. So it can only be said he's shot himself in the foot.
And now, talking about French reactions, how do you think the French electorate is reacting now to these rapid political changes, and what are their main concerns?
Well, I think the electorate are bewildered. They're perplexed. And we haven't seen this much turmoil in French politics for a long time. The main considerations, in a way, of the French electorate are the same as those of most member states in Europe. They're worried above all about purchasing power, about inflation, about jobs. These are their main concerns, although immigration is a big part of that. Now, the trouble is that the European elections were treated more or less as a referendum about Monsieur Macron personally. And these elections are going to turn into a referendum about him as well, especially as he insists on being part of the campaign, of not being above it. So beyond all of the bread and butter issues that interest people, it's Monsieur Macron's person that is at stake here.
All right, and like you mentioned, Macron's support is waning right now, and he might be shooting himself in the foot for having called for this snap election. However, prior to that, we've also seen Macron made a lot of big geopolitical moves, being its staunch support of Ukraine and statements about potentially seeing NATO troops on the ground. Do you think that his waning support and popularity will affect these decisions made by France going forward? Speaking about the G7 summit, the NATO decisions that's going to take place?
I'm afraid that there is a problem here of image, at least, that although Monsieur Macron may be making the right moves on the international stage and receiving the agreement and the approval of his international colleagues, there will, I think, be a sense in which, well, Monsieur Macron, is he not a bit of a dead duck, as it were, in his own country if he comes out badly from these elections? And don't forget that these elections will be taking place just before the Paris Olympic Games, which is supposed to be a sort of showcase of France, boosting the image of the country. All of this couldn't be happening at a worse time.
And now, I want to also ask about the international hemisphere concerning the situation. Now, despite the political chaos, as of now, France has maintained a strong stance on supporting Ukraine, but do you see this commitment continuing?
Yes, all the parties really are clear now. They weren't always so clear, but they're all clear about Ukraine. They're all clear about condemning Russia. And I don't think that anyone in power in the next year or so is going to change radically the policy in that respect. Although you might find some pockets of public opinion that are less keen on supporting Ukraine, as a whole, French public opinion is for Ukraine.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jeremy Stubbs, for helping us unpack this very complicated political situation going on in France. And of course, as situation unfolds, we'll keep an eye out for the further developments. Meanwhile, thank you so much for being with us on TVP World.